Saturday, September 13th, super middleweight undisputed showdown between titleist Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Bud Crawford proved to be quite an affair, a revelation for both and the boxing world, because a number of thoughts were dispelled once the performances were culminated. And so now, as we venture forward, we can reflect back upon a great showdown between two great champions and sort of conceptualize what we were able to witness as these two came together, and there were so many mountains to climb. Let's talk about this matchup, what transpired, and what the future may hold. When the proposed showdown between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Bud Crawford was suggested, many people saw this as a total mismatch, because Alvarez has been competing and reigning as the super middleweight undisputed champion for several years. And Crawford, who had become undisputed at welterweight, but couldn't secure a rematch with Errol Spence for the bout that they fought for the showdown of undisputed, he moved up to super welterweight and achieved another division title by defeating Madrimov. However, he wasn't happy with just that, so he wanted to pursue other dragons. And it was just not in the cards. But as he himself has stated, it took DHP CEO Bill Haney to suggest to him, why don't you go and seek out Canelo Alvarez, because that's a fight that can garner you a great deal of respect towards your legacy, and it's a challenge, but a fight that I feel that you can win. Crawford initially didn't take kind to that. He was like, man, are you crazy? I'm at 147, 154, but you're talking about going all the way up to super middleweight. Well, flash forward to Saturday, September 13th, the fight was made. And as the billing stated, once in a lifetime, Terrence Bud Crawford was able to defeat Canelo Alvarez, becoming a 3-division undisputed champion of the world in the modern day era of 4 championship belts. Crawford got this done with the science, the sweet science that we talk about in the sport of boxing. It all began behind a jab as he stepped out in the opening stanza of this fight, using mobility, moving side to side, in and out, as Canelo, as usual, sought to hunt him down. Crawford began the fight with the southpaw position, meaning that his right hand was his lead hand in jab. Canelo said he had trained for that and even had enlisted the services of Jaron Boots Ennis to assist in his preparation for Crawford. When Crawford had heard about that, he was unnerved. He said, "Hey, that's not me. He's not me." When we saw the fight on Saturday, we found out that those words were very true. Ennis is not Crawford. But there were other questions that we would have going into this bout. And Crawford seemed to answer everything. Because as he fought Canelo, we were able to find out that not only could he score against Canelo, he could score clean and be very effective. As Canelo sought to get at him, one of the major concerns going in would be because Crawford had mainly campaigned at lighter weights, whether or not he would be able to withstand the strength and punching power of Canelo. That was answered early on, as Canelo was able to connect with right hands. However, most of them were warded off by the glove, but there were a few that did land, and Bud took them solidly, didn't waver or buckle. So, as this fight concluded, Alvarez, whose record now drops to 63 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, and 39 KOs, found something that he would state about Crawford that many people had not anticipated him being so honest about. Alvarez has stated that everything about Bud Crawford's style gave him trouble. And he said he prepared totally for this as much as he could. And seeing that he was stepping up 2 weight classes to face the champion in Alvarez, he said that he did what he was supposed to do, and he tried in every way. He trained very hard. But Crawford deserves all the credit. I couldn't figure out his style. And see, that's where we get to that point of talking about complete fighters and fighters with dimensions. Now, when I talk about dimensions, I've stated on numerous occasions that there are fighters who basically can be engaged as up to as many as 5 dimensions. When I rate a 5-dimensional fighter, a fighter like Crawford falls directly under that description. That's about as complete a fighter as you can be. You can manage your footwork well. You can manage to be able to punch with effectiveness, snap, power, speed. You have ring IQ that is way above average. Your defense is as solid as it needs to be to contend with the most elite of fighters. That doesn't mean that you have to have the granite of chin, but just be able to maintain. Also, to be able to make adjustments and adapt to circumstances that where the climate of the fight that you're participating in may not be favorable, but you can still have the resolve to find a way to win. Now, Crawford, who came out of this, his record is now 42-0 with 31 KOs, has shown that throughout the divisions that he's fought, from lightweight to junior welterweight to welterweight to super welterweight, and now having conquered super middleweight, skipping a division in middleweight, Crawford has shown us that his skill set, his ring IQ, his game plans have been executed to perfection. And coming out of those type of circumstances and having the successes that he's had, it builds and breeds more confidence in his abilities. Alvarez has had circumstances where he may not have been the most talented guy, but he was able to compete. But he's also received favor from judges. And in that case, the sanctioning bodies also have contributed to he not necessarily being forced to fight certain people who would give him trouble. You see, because I've considered Saul a fighter who is kind of a 2 to 3 dimensional fighter. He punches well. He can take a shot well. His defense is very solid, commendable even. But he's slow of foot. He doesn't make adjustments. And though his ring IQ may be smart, athletically, he has setbacks that do not allow him to compete with more athletic fighters who will not be ready for him to just stand in the pocket and punch on. Crawford would stand in the middle to later portions of the fight after he had gauged exactly what he was dealing with, and even in the trenches was out-punching Canelo with speed and variety. Crawford knows every punch in the book, and he was hitting Canelo with shots that sometimes he couldn't see. And as Canelo has stated, he says his body just couldn't keep up with Crawford. Crawford, who was so active, threw 216 punches more than Canelo at 534. You see, Canelo stated, sometimes you can try, but your body can't go. That's my frustration. I couldn't figure out Crawford. I don't blame it on his body. I blame it on the fact that he has limitations, which is why he wasn't forced to face certain individuals. But in the sport of boxing, when you are a complete fighter, or as I've termed, a 5-dimensional fighter, you can always be in the match. Crawford was able to deliver body shots on Canelo solidly. They were effective. And though Canelo didn't wear down like he has been doing in some of his most recent matches, it was only because Crawford didn't stand in the pocket to deliver more, which I believe if his corner suggested that he do so, he would have followed those instructions. But because of being more fluid, having the lateral movement, not running away, but giving angles and making Canelo unsettled with his footwork, so he couldn't put a lot of leverage on the power punches that he wanted to throw. That was the difference, you see. And even when they got in clinches, there was a moment where Canelo did his famous thing of lifting a guy up because he's strong. Well, Bud did the same thing. And then that's when Canelo realized, oh, this is what they mean about this guy. You see, he questioned during the lead up to the fight Bud's ability to have a resume of fight challenges that could be respected. But Canelo shouldn't have even gone down that route because he looks very foolish in the aftermath. Bud was able to land his shots at will. He was able to control and dictate the tempo of the fight. And there were moments even late in the match where you could see Canelo's body language was suggesting that he might even have reservations about continuing on. And it was simply because frustration had set in. Crawford can do that to fighters, especially when they're not getting off against him. And being a complete fighter as he is, that's what's the thing that wrecks the psyche of fighters even more than anything else. This was a tremendous win for Crawford and for the sport of boxing. In what way? The fact that it opens the window for other fighters to understand that in order to really achieve the respect and the acknowledgement, you sometimes have to take the risks and put it on the line for your legacy if you want to be remembered. And Terrence Bud Crawford in this present era has certified that this is his era. The battles that he has won and the way that he has come through as a fighter overall, a man who had been denied opportunity after opportunity, has still found a way to make it to the class of the elite. And when he retires, first ballot Hall of Fame. I'd like to salute Terrence Bud Crawford for his achievements and for showing the rest of the boxing world how it's done. Much respect to the man. This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know your thoughts about Bud Crawford, his achievements, and where do you place him? Leave comments and let's discuss further. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.